Okay, I think Instagram likes me more now. Let's try that again. It's really been having, I don't know why, but anyway, I've just invited Susanna again into the video, and hopefully that should fix the problem. And there she is. So excellent. I think you should see an invitation just here on the bottom hand side with the little it has like a little camera and a cross in there, and it should let you allow the invitation. I say should because it's been playing up as usual. Okay, did that work? I'm on Instagram, you can do this. And oh, yay!
Ce l'abbiamo fatta! Ciao Lily, ciao everyone.
That's okay. You're right.
Wonders of technology, but at some point I'm very naive too.
It's honestly, Instagram is just annoying for these things sometimes, so don't worry. It just happens. Um, but yeah,
Well, yes, it's on and off sometimes, but it's a very useful tool indeed. With a simple mobile at hand, you can do wonders.
that's it.
And you
It's
do.
it's amazing what we can do with these days with just a phone. It's seriously scary if you think about it.
That's right. That's right. Yes. If you think about it, it's even
Yeah,
scary, as you say.
for
Allora,
sure.
buonasera.
Buonasera and good evening, everyone. I can see that everyone has joined us. Thank you for the couple of people who have rejoined after I had some technical issues on the previous attempt to do the live stream. So thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who may not know what we're doing here, why Susanna is here, who am I, all of those questions, I'm going to do a very brief introduction and then I'm going to pass it on to Susanna to introduce herself to all of you in case that you don't know her. Because if you don't know her, you definitely want to know her. Okay, well, I am Lily. I am the CEO here in Travolution Tours, and Travolution Tours is a company that really was designed in an attempt to make travel accessible and affordable for everyone. We take very, very seriously the fact that not just because of the pandemic, but because of many other reasons, a lot of people don't always have a lot of money to throw at holidays. So we try to help out in whatever way we can. Now, throughout the pandemic, as you'll probably know, tour guides suffered quite a lot. Tourism wasn't on a great period of its history, as to say. So when things restarted, a lot of tour guides were really doing many things to come together and to restart their businesses. And one of the things I really wanted to do for the community was bring tour guides together so they had a space where they could talk about their jobs, and so that people like you watching us at home understands why having a visit with someone like Susanna or with me is one of the best ways you can discover a new place. And also one of the best ways in which you can contribute to sustainable tourism, because we are helping you engage with those communities. So here we are, and today is actually the last episode of this series of Tour Guide Central, and I am ever so delighted that our last guest is going with a bang, because I have been adoring Susanna for quite some time, even before I did Travolution, because I follow Darius. And obviously, him being a historian, he's mentioned you a few times, and that's how I sort of started to know you. And obviously, when I started my own side of things, I was like, yeah, need to follow and everything else. So I'm super, super delighted that you're here. And please, for anyone who may not know you yet, tell us, who are you and why are you a tour guide?
Well, first of all, let me say, Lily, that I love the way you pronounce my name with your Spanish fashion, Susanna, and that I'm very honored that you think so highly of me. I think so highly of you as well, and that is has honored me featuring my page in the past, and that has been one of the big things that have helped me a big launch. Why I'm a tour guide? My background is as an art historian. I studied at the University of Rome and did my postgraduate in Siena. And in a few years, I became involved in a study abroad program for American students from the state of Alabama, from the Auburn University. And I was involved in their studies and in the trips that they took, the tours that they took within their courses. And this brought me into this thing. I was in need of getting myself a license or a piece of paper that would justify my presence because it's this type of job is very regimented in Italy. At least it was so far. And so I was always traveling with a letter, presentation letter from the university, and I sort of started to like that role that I had. In the years, I did a number of things, and as soon as the possibility presented itself, I applied for the state application for becoming a licensed tour guide, and so not be illegal anymore. And gradually, I moved on from being the research assistant of a curator of a museum in the area where I live to a professional tour guide more and more often until it became my primary and persistent job. And I feel very fortunate. I feel blessed because it blends into a number of things that I truly love. So my studies, the art and the history, the city, and the people. Of course, just like any other job, some days you would send someone else in your place, but but I would say that most of the time I'm enthusiastic, even when it comes to waking up at 5 in the morning or putting up with 40 degrees centigrade, in the valley of the Colosseum in the shade.
For sure. And it's so nice to see someone like you, talking about their journey, because I always find like very few tour guides I actually know sort of knew from the beginning, yeah, I'm going to be a tour guide. That's what I'm going to do with my life. One of our colleagues, Raquel from Seville, I always say it, she knew from when she was very young that that was something she wanted to do. But I think a lot of us sort of, because of our studies with history and whatnot, we end up finding this route. And like you, I find that I thrive when I'm with people. I say that I'm an energy vampire. So I feed from people's energies. And of course, in a tour, you're talking with so many people, you're showing something that you love. And I always thought, what a lovely way of actually showing a place. And I mean, in your case, like Rome, I mean, how many people get the chance to show a city like that to all of the visitors that come around, It's a very special thing. And we don't realize that sometimes. We sort of just think, oh, it's a tour, whatever. But it's actually a very, very unique human connection that you're establishing there. So for someone like you to come from that perspective and then decide, you know what, no more research assistant, I am the tour guide. It's a big step. So the fact that you love it and that you're happy of having taken this decision, it's inspiring for everyone, really. So thank you for that and for
Grazie mille,
sharing that with
grazie
us.
mille. Well, I
So
feel a very fortunate ambassador of my city. Definitely. It is quite a place. It's a treasure of humanity. All the world is very beautiful and special. Every place is special in its own way. But definitely, Rome has a huge appeal. So definitely, I take it very seriously, even though it's something I truly enjoy.
And that was something that I actually wanted to ask you. Like, I mean, Italy, of course, it's hard not finding a city in Italy where you can find so much history, so much culture. I mean, it's fortunate that way. Not many countries in the world can say that, but Italy, because of its very peculiar history, almost every other place is just full of stuff. So, have you ever felt like there is a rivalry between tour guides in Italy, depending on the city they are from, or even in their city? Is that something that happens? Because I've heard some horror stories, which I hope are exaggerations, but it's something that I've always wondered, because obviously there is a lot of competition for culture, right? There's so many offers, and what you can see in Rome is not the same than Venice, Milan, Napoli, or whatever. So is that something that you have encountered in your career at all?
definitely. Not only my career, but being a local, I've always uh, breathed this cultural clash between regions, and especially between North and South. There's always been this game. Um, Definitely, every region has its own specifics within a very small nation. We are so diversified under any point of view. If you speak about landscape, language, food, art, and history, and so to be a tour guide, especially in Italy, implies a lot of knowledge of the very local beat, mood, traditions, vibes, and everyone is very proud of its own. And to see someone interfering and stepping over your borders sometimes is not seen well. So, because especially in the big cultural and artistic heritage places, it takes a lot of studies to be very rooted into the topic and very affirmed and knowledgeable. And so this implies pride, but also some people become a little defensive, a little bit too defensive sometimes. But also, it also implies awareness on the other hand. And even just touring for one location, like in my case, well, my case is very unique because Rome is really the eternal city. It's endless in terms of things that you
Yes.
could see and discover and learn. We become perpetual students. I guess like any guide does. You know very well what I'm talking about. So it's really up to you how deep you want to go into something and how much you want to specialize yourself and know more. In Italian we say il più comprende il meno. Plus includes the minus, which means the more you know, the better you're going to, be comfortable with a topic. It's not necessary that you're going to tell every single detail to your guest. But if you have studied one topic very, very deeply, then you're more capable of conveying the message in the right way. And being a tour guide, it's definitely, like I said, being an ambassador. And so you definitely want to be a local. If I want to put my guest, if I have a guest who is visiting other places in Italy, I want to make sure that he is in good hands. So I'm very happy to put him in touch with a pure local, a pure Florentine-blooded guide, or an excellent guide from the south, because it's the best experience they can aim for. And the network is the basic of a good service that we can provide.
For sure. I mean, and the fact that you do that, it's amazing because I know so many people in a similar situation. Like for example, in London here is, I guess, is a very similar experience to what you may be going through in Rome. And I do know the guides there are very territorial. They don't like
It's a good
other
way to put it.
people. Yeah, they don't really, it's a bit like a lion pack. If you're a guide
Hmm.
here in this corner, you can go to this other one or whatever. And many of them don't even have the courtesy of thinking, maybe you will go outside of London and maybe I can put you in touch with someone somewhere else that will give you the same level of experience and, customer service and just general knowledge that I will give you, which I think it's a real shame because, the guides outside of London are not going to come for your job anyway. They are no threat. So the only thing you can be doing is enriching that person's journey and their experience. And what a better way for them to remember you, right? That thinking, oh, I had a wonderful tour with Susanna in Rome, and then she recommended me to this other amazing guide 3 towns down the road. And it really goes a long way. So, kudos to you for being able to do that and for recognizing that is also a huge part of being an ambassador and being a good tour guide. Because as we both know, doesn't always happen. But, well, I think we're getting better at it. And I think personally that
Yes.
the pandemic helped a little bit sort of making tour guides come together in that way. Because, well, we all kind of had to pull together, right, to get through the other end. So I
To make
sincerely hope.
yourself heard from the world, from the institutions, and to reach out to all those people that wanted to travel so much but could not. So, like you do, virtual tours have been an incredible resource, and just posting pictures has been a beautiful way to um, make our guests and the potential clientele feel taken care of despite the historical moment. You made a great point. Very often it's just a fear. Um, there's hardly ever a chance that someone's going to steal your clientele. If you send someone over to Florence or Venice or Naples, just to mention some major cities that most of my visitors will come to, you're just mm, making network, broadening up the possibilities that your guests have a full good experience, doing yourself a beautiful service because you will give a heartfelt opinion and advice. And I think it's the smartest move that we can make to be
It's
generous and
definitely.
appreciative of others because they play a role somewhere else. You know, they are like an extension of what we do somewhere else.
Yeah. And I've always said, and I will say it until the day I die, that even if you and I were touring in the same city, the way you're going to explain things is never going to be the same way I would explain things. So our clients may not be the same. Our clients may come from different perspectives, and our clients will come to have an experience with us because they want to see our point of view. So I think as soon as people start realizing that, then they realize there's not so much competition. But I think that can sometimes come with, experience of truly understanding what a tour guide is. It's not just pointing at monuments and giving random information. It's creating that journey for people, which is at the end of the day what we're here for. And on that note, I really wanted to ask you, because obviously you've been doing this for a long time and you've developed, different experiences, you've had many different customers. What kind of um, inspired you to go down the route that, or your approach with your tours? Like, how did you make that decision? How did you decide that I'm going to do my tours this way rather than another way?
Oh, like I told you at the very beginning, I really enjoy being around people. There are two ways of enjoying your public being a tour guide. You can have massive tours or very private cut ones, like I chose to. At the very beginning, I immediately chose to be a private tour guide for very limited amounts of guests. But I did experience the large groups because it's very important for us to learn logistics. The need to sacrifice information sometimes when you're trying to navigate a group of 60 people into a very limited time frame or with all the um, logistics that a big city implies. So I decided immediately, even though I wanted to have this experience for some time. So every Wednesday I was part of a group of guides that served the visitors coming in through cruises. So when the ship came in Rome, we waited for them in the city and took a hold of them for all day long. And that was not my favorite cut, but it taught me so much in terms of what I just said before. But I'm sorry, I'm drifting away, but just to tell you that I experienced the difference. So my choice was made instinctively at heart because I like to relate with the people in front of me, even one by one. And I like to really give a custom cut to the tour I deliver. I truly love for the people to feel special and unique and taken care of, and and in the position of being the focus of my attention, something that you cannot do with a big group. So I instinctively knew this, that I wanted a one-to-one relationship with my guests, but definitely I experienced the other side of the medal for a little while, and it was very useful for me. So basically, it's about people. It's about being able to look them in the eyes and put myself at service. Versus when you have a big group, you have to make sure that things are led well without focusing too much on the individuals. And so, you know, what you do for them is make sure the package is delivered very well on time and things are stuck in the schedule, but you don't have time for the single needs, taste, and values.
Yeah. No,
I hope I explained myself well.
yeah, you totally have. And I relate a lot because one of the first places where I started doing tour guiding and I trained a lot, we dealt with cruise ships a lot. And there
In
is a
what
huge
means,
difference between doing a tour for, like you say, 60 people than just a few. You simply cannot spend the same amount of time, the same amount of attention. Timing is super, super important. I mean, I hated nothing more, in our case at least, than running behind schedule or that someone suddenly having so many questions and me having to be like, okay, I have like a second to answer six different questions. It genuinely felt like I wasn't given not just enough details for that person to enjoy the experience, but I wasn't also being fair on the other people because I was taking time away
that's
from them.
right.
So it
I
becomes
felt the same. And there's always that one person that walks ahead with you all the time and that, is very, very interested while other people are more being dragged along. And there's always someone that is asking you, wait a minute, that thing that we saw 2 minutes ago around the corner. So he's interrupting you and you kind of lose the focus on what you're doing. And like you say, the fear is that you make some people discontent because you want to please some others and have this tendency of wanting to be equal with everyone, which is not possible with a large group.
exactly. And I also find, I mean, for those of you guys who don't know, being a tour guide requires a lot of energy. I can't talk about this enough. We are constantly, even if it's just from the point of view that we are talking, and what we're talking comes from, information that we are trying to explain. That takes a lot. And if you are walking, then, and you're breathing too. So it's a lot of energy. But when you have such a large group, it's also the fact that you need to be aware of where everyone is at all
Hmm.
times, that everyone is safe, that they are all having a good time, that no one gets lost, you know, all of that. It is a lot. It is a lot. And particularly, I feel, I mean, I could be wrong, but in places like Rome as well, a lot of cruise ships, it's kind of like one day in Rome, one day in Florence, one day in Venice. And they want to see everything.
Of course, they want to cram in everything, all the highlights, all the musts, and logistics are not easy at all.
No, it,
But
I mean,
definitely, these are huge skills that our colleagues that deal with cruise ships or large groups have.
yeah,
The
it's
ability to, keep an eye on everyone, make sure that we are on time despite the amount of people that may get lost, distracted, stay behind, walk ahead of you. So you have to be like a shepherd dog.
yeah, yeah, literally, that is it. Because it
Because
is
you
just,
want them to be safe.
yeah. And sometimes I kind of felt that, I mean, I even had groups personally where it was 100 people, which is now starting to be a
No
lot.
way.
That's already a
No
lot.
way. Started to be a lot? I would say it's way beyond a lot. A
Yeah.
100 people, there's no way you're gonna make them happy because
No,
I mean,
no. It was it
I
was one of those
understand groups, but
situations.
wow,
It,
you really tried
never again,
the
never
opposite
again. No.
side of the medal.
It was really not an enjoyable experience. So, but like you said, it teaches you a lot because it puts so much pressure on you from so many different angles that I think it really helps you understand what matters to you as a tour guide and what matters to you, in order to deliver whatever experience you want to do. And some people love it, and that's amazing, but not for me.
See, some people would rather do that. They prefer that type of tour because they don't have to focus on the individuals. They just
Yeah,
uh, go down the line. They say what they have to say, and they're very capable, like said, of keeping a number of variables together when it comes to large numbers and tight timings. And I understand some people just want to be transited from one spot to another. They want superficial information. They don't just not necessarily want something specific or customized. It really depends what they're looking for. But going back to your question, I much more prefer the private cut.
yeah. No, it's exactly that. We don't all are the same people, so we are never gonna want the same things. But at the
Very
same time,
true.
a guide has to
And we
decide which guide they are.
Very
Yeah,
true. And you mentioned a very good word, people. It's about people.
exactly. And it's
So,
it, it's not about the information. I mean, it kind of is about the information, but
see,
it's only if the information is relevant to the people you're talking about. Otherwise, it's like
see.
talking to a wall. So it is about those people for sure. And on that note, I wanted to ask you something that I had already mentioned to you beforehand. But as we are talking about these huge groups and the impact of tourism right now, is there anything that you could tell people, listening at home, that they can do that you think would be helpful in big locations like Rome to combat that type of mass tourism? What sort of pointers or helpful things do you think people who are trying to break away from that can do to understand why things like a private tour could be better for them? Could. I'm not saying it would, but it could be a
Necessarily would. Hmm. Well, like said, it really depends on what the person is looking for. Uh, and of course, it depends on the pockets because a private tour guide, said very frankly, is always something more expensive, and it's a luxury that some people indulge with. Even though we're people like you and I are always very happy to provide information, even apart from a tour. Um, Rome has become, especially Rome, has become a hub to other destinations. And even though there's an endless number of things to experience, the the visitors come here for a day or two. They want to cover the highlights, and then they're off a week to the Amalfi Coast or a week to Tuscany for very enjoyable wine appreciation tours. So we have to cram in the experience in a very short time. Uh, what I what I usually try to do to make the experience more enjoyable, given that this is the situation, especially with the huge impact of the cruises that definitely have encouraged um, ultimately this facts, is to make a choice. Make a choice. There's only so much you can do. And you start with 100% of energy, and you will end up decreasing. No matter how much you're strong at will, no matter how much you're greedy to learn. And if you have just one day or two and you end up being stuck in museums all day long, you're probably going to be very tired and unhappy with your experience, because in the high season, the museums are likely to be crowded, and definitely you're going to miss out on the vibes, the real vibes of the city. What I truly like to present to my guests is the city of Rome. Yes, there are some must do, especially for first time visitors. But like I said, let's make a choice. We either do this or that, either the Vatican or the Colosseum, and the rest is dedicated to breathing in, soaking in the atmosphere. So wandering through the maze of little alleys, the picturesque colors, the genuine feeling, going into a bar and learning that you tip the coffee, or going in some other place when you know what the street food is like in Rome. And this implies being open to experience also those local businesses. Some are holes in the walls, but they will give you the real feeling versus, a chain of restaurants or the very touristy or horrendously touristy restaurants that some people end up to. And of course, the guests that decide to do this would leave with a fulfilling experience of having been able to experience the city and its habits. Of course, if you have little time available, this will only be a small percentage, but I try to put it in the package. If my guests have been here more than once, or if they have more days available, one thing that I always warmly suggest is to come just outside Rome, in the countryside, to go to the villages, and you can really meet the locals, and they will have more time for you. They will stop and try to listen and interact, and you can wander in the back of the bakery to see the bun that is cooking in the oven, and people will be happy to offer you the view of their location, or listen if you're trying to speak in Italian rather than just answer in English by default. So the candid feeling also of the hanging laundry, the imagery of the little Italy that everybody has, and that is lost for the major part. So to just step away from the city, just around the corner, you still these telephones. Where will we be without them? Maybe in a more relaxed place. And so yes, what I try to do is this: to try to help my guests make the best choice for their own convenience, even though I know they would love to put everything in the schedule as much as possible, but as much as possible doesn't necessarily mean enjoyment or good memories. And definitely, you never want to ruin good memories with bad meals. So choosing the place to eat, whether it's going to be a sandwich, un panino, or whether it's going to be sitting down at a table of a lovely Roma trattoria, it has to be good quality food and good service.
For sure. I mean, this is exactly what I always talk about. Like, people who know me and hear me talk about these things must be tired of me repeating this all the time. But I repeat it because I love you, dear tourists. This is how we stop being tourists and we become travelers, because you start appreciating the community in which you're having that experience. So you can't have a positive impact in a place if all you do is go to the Colosseum, take a picture, go to the Vatican, take a picture, go to the Forum, take a picture, and then have lunch at McDonald's. Like, you've helped nobody by doing that, and you've not created any memories either. You've just seen some things, and you've not had the context, and the context matters so much, because cities are not just the memories and the monuments that are around them. They are living organisms. It is, a city is the same that your body, but just made of buildings and people. And if you don't experience the city for what it is, doesn't matter what a lovely guide you had in the Roman Colosseum or anywhere else, you are missing the point. And you are actually damaging. You are damaging and creating these unhealthy, patterns of go consume, but not involve yourself and appreciate that community, which is actually what makes tourism sustainable and what makes tourism, be nice. Because taking pictures of monuments, you can do it on your own home. I mean, simple as that. You may not have the Colosseum.
You can Google it up.
Exactly. There is history and pretty things everywhere, literally everywhere. So if all you care about is that type of stuff, You don't need to go to the other side of the world to have that experience. So this is why I always say, please, please, please think about that when you go somewhere, and particularly, from local experts like Susanna, take that in, because they are really showing you how to have the best experience, not just as a tourist, but as a local as well. And, the locals that live in Rome love Rome because they know Rome. So if you want to love Rome, you learn from them. That's the way it goes. So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us, because I think it's really important. But, particularly for people who are now starting to travel after the pandemic, and I appreciate in some places things are still, very much touch and go. I genuinely think these things are important for them to learn about and to embrace, because they're really going to make things forward, well, better, I think, or I hope. But
See,
we shall see.
you said a beautiful, you used a beautiful expression. You treated the site like a living creature, and that's very true. And the pulse of the city can be perceived in a negative or positive way by the visitor. And our role, Lily, you know very well, is to give a frank opinion. The ones that write to us and are aiming to uh, take a tour would like us to lead them through any place possible, but to be very honest and tell them, look, I think this is going to be overly tiring for you, or this is not going to be doable at all, is the most honest thing that we could do.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you're going to make their experience very unhappy otherwise. If you try to please them, knowing very well that it's going to be very, very difficult. I like to say that we're not surgeons. We don't. We're not life saviors. So we don't. Uh, we're not doctors of the heart disease. But definitely, tourism or any type of entertainment is very important for humanity, especially in this time frame when distraction is the only island away from pain and fear. And eventually, we take care of a family that is traveling with 3 generations with their grandmother for the last time, or they put money apart for a lifetime to invest in a travel and in tours, or maybe they're healed. We don't know. So there's so much expectation in travels and tours, in entertainment. We should take it very seriously. We had a very famous Italian comedian that used to say, quando si scherza bisogna essere seri, which means in a Roman accent that you gotta be serious when you're kidding. So there is some importance to it. Even though it's just a tour, you don't want to make people very unhappy with it. You want to make them happy, even if this implies cutting something out of it, out of their original plan.
that's so true, and it's it's something that I always say, that I think, particularly having worked in retail before or in hospitality, you kind of have this mentality of the customer is always right. And I hate to say that the customer is not always right, and we don't always know what is best for us from that perspective. But maybe your waitress knows what is the best, meal in the
Very
menu.
true.
In the same way that you or I would know, actually, if you go to this place or that place, there may be problems, or you may regret it, or you may not enjoy it as
Hmm.
much as this other thing or that
Well
other
said.
thing. So there is, there is such a thing as also being responsible when we are in our industry. And that's something that I take very seriously. And I know you do as well, which is I cannot let a tourist come to anywhere I am, doesn't matter in what capacity, and just let them do something that I think is going to damage their journey. I just am not happy doing that. And I know, a lot of people could say, well, they've just paid you to do this. Why don't you just do it? Because it will not sit right in my conscience that that person has done something that could potentially ruin the experience. It's not about the money. I mean, it's about the money because I have to eat. But but at the same time, it's so much more than that. It's, this is a very personal job, like you said. It's about the people. So we need to be responsible. when we do that. And I know now there's a lot of movements and talks about in tourism to actually, do that. Be responsible when you are in any of the many different environments in tourism towards the customer, because that way also people are never going to be taken advantage of. They're never going to be scammed. They're never going to be unsafe or have an unpleasant experience that may potentially ruin international or national travel for them ever again. So it is a serious matter, and it starts with the tour guide, but tourists can learn, and this is why we have these conversations, right? So you guys can see that there is no shame if you go to Rome and you just decide today I'm just gonna see this one thing and then just wander and get lost. That there is no one
How
is gonna be
fun.
upset with you, In fact,
Fun.
some
And
people
you're
may
not on a
think
schedule.
exactly, and some people may think, "Oh, how exciting! What did you learn from that?" So it is whatever fits well with you and with the experience that you want to get out of it at the end of the day. Well, I am getting self-conscious that the time is running, as it always does, because these conversations are always amazing. So I wanted to ask, Susanna, this is something that I ask everyone. So I was wondering if you had any particular stories from tours recently or from time ago, I don't know, whatever it may be, that you could share with us, which is the typical thing that really made you feel happy. And even when you're having one of those days of, oh, I'd rather not wake up in the morning, you think about that moment in a tour or with a specific customer, and it puts a smile on your face. I'm sure you have loads of those. So if you could share one of
I
those with us.
do. Well, this is one of those hard questions
Yes.
that put me in the hard place of making a choice to give you an answer. Well, you were asking me at the end of the conversation why I chose a private cat for my tours, and basically I just love to see Rome through the people's eyes every time, and this helps me to keep loving it and even more each time. So with their virgin eye, with their candid eye. And I usually do love to do couples tours. I usually focus on two people that just share Rome for the first time and try to give it an additional value, that special touch. And I often do families and just occasionally children because I have wonderful colleagues that do a custom tour with the focus on little ones. But children are definitely a white page you write on, and they give you an excellent feedback, an immediate one, and very spontaneous one. And the thing that I really liked was recently I had a family with 3 children. They were very traveled. In few years they have moved in 2 different continents and 4 different nations. So these children are used to be around people. They're open-minded, etc. And they're very lively. I had 2 boys and a girl that got no word because with the other 2 boys, with their brothers, they were always fussing and fighting to get the attention. She was always trying to, put some peace. And at some point, I found myself in this position where one was pulling me on the other side and one on the opposite side, and they were jumping on my head and, trying to get my attention, screaming in my ear. And I want to say this, no, I know that. I want to ask you a question. Oh, let me talk. And, and their parents were extremely well-mannered. They tried to pull me out of the situation when it got dramatic, but at the same time, they could tell that I was having fun with them. So at some point, I thought, okay, they're gonna, push me down the the terrace of the Colosseum. I'm gonna die here, and I'm never gonna survive. But this thing will come to an end. I will manage somehow. It came to a point it was very fatiguing, but I did what I told you before. I tried to customize it around them. They were my guests for the day. They wanted the experience to be memorable for them. They were so excited. At some point, one was talking to me, and the other one wanted the attention. And I told him, wait a moment, I need to talk to your brother first. So the little one started pulling the rings from my fingers. And literally, I had I have a spring ring, which was totally in a line because he pulled it apart because he wanted the attention, so he started playing with my fingers. But at the end of the experience, when we said goodbye, these three children gave me such a hug right here around my chest that they would not let go. And this was very touching for me because even within 3 or 4 hours, they're capable of developing some sort of gratefulness for you, some sort of affection. And so you understand that you really do reach out to feelings. You can really touch people's heart, whatever their age is. And of course, I have many beautiful stories with the young adults and with adults and with elderlies. Like I told you before, it's about people and people satisfaction, their happiness, their beautiful feedback is the most precious payoff that we can have. Like you say, we have to make a living out of this,
Yeah.
but we would not be happy if our guests were not happy, no matter how much they pay. And I'm
No,
honest, I'm really honest because I'm frustrated when I sense that the person in front of me may not be happy. It makes me frustrated
same.
because we take over the emotions.
Yes, yes, we do. Yes, we do. It takes me back to that idea of being the energy vampire, because the same,
Yes,
if you're somewhere and the group has a bustling energy, then you get hyped and it's fine. It doesn't matter how much you have to do.
very true.
And the same, if the group is sort of very mellow, then you go very mellow. And it is weird. I always say it's kind of like being a chameleon. You try to adapt to an environment that's constantly changing, but it is
True.
that way. We have to be empathetic at the end of the day, because, well, I mean, when you're dealing with people, if there is no empathy, then, I mean, you're lost. But
Yes,
particularly when you're
yes.
creating memories, memories at the end of the day are our feelings, and empathy is all about that. So
When
it's
when you leave
super
so
important.
tired and but with a smile on your face.
Yes.
And you're dazed on the metro as you're going back home after hours and hours under the sun and the rain and in the wind, in the traffic, and you know, hardly being able to sit down for a moment or eat or drink, but still you're happy. And you said it very well. The vampire, I find tours are very enriching on a personal point of view. Very enriching because it's a mutual healing.
Yeah. It's it is definitely, like I said, there is really not another job like it. I've never known someone to experience as many things as we do experience when we're doing these things. And it is fascinating, because you don't know what every single day is gonna come up, other than it's gonna bring people. So if you kind of just hang on to that, it can be genuinely very, very beautiful. And from what you've shared, you obviously get all of these beautiful moments that fuel everything that you do. And I think that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And
Grazie mille a te.
as we're coming towards the end, I would like it if you could just, share like a last message for, I mean, you're closing this, Susanna. The pressure is on. I'm joking, but this is the last time for now, for this winter season, that we're doing this. So, is there something that, as a tour guide, you really, really would like everyone that sees this to know, like whether it's about your job or about the experience that they have as a tourist, something that next time that they're thinking about going on holiday or whatever, they will remember your words and be like, ah, I'll keep that in mind. One last message of hope or empowerment for our tourists, if you like.
First of all, thank you so much for the little performance anxiety you just gave me about being the last one that has to leave a memorable sentence. Well, I will tell the lovers and the potential visitors of Rome this thing to keep in mind, which will definitely help them to enjoy their experience. And it's something that I often say to my guests as we begin our tour. It's about flexibility. So, in visiting the city, especially the city of Rome, which not only is very large, but is made of a number of inconveniences or potential threats or disorienting aspects or that type of neurotic place that any big city has. If if they keep in mind that they may have to be flexible with regards to some things, so that things will not necessarily go exactly like they expect, that they have to step out of their comfort zone a little bit and keep away the ugly part, the ugly side of the things, to just focus on the beautiful part, on the fortunate part of visiting Roma. Well, then they have the key.
That's very inspiring, that's amazing.
Grazie mille.
Because
Grazie mille.
it is, I mean, it is very much like that. And I think that is such a beautiful note to end this as well, because I also find that flexibility is a huge part of our job. So it's almost
You know very
imparting
well.
a little wisdom from tour guide to tourist, if we need to be flexible because we don't know what could happen, right? We may be about to cross a street and maybe a building is set on fire, or it starts snowing, or it's unlikely, but it could happen. Or maybe you get somewhere and that somewhere is closed because of an inconvenience, and you just need to act on your feet and somehow manage this experience to move forward, so that this inconvenience doesn't ruin the whole experience. So I think it is so important as well when we travel that we don't let those little things get in our way, because what you may have done just a moment ago may have been amazing, and it doesn't mean that it gets to be ruined just because something else didn't go according to plan, or because something that you really wanted to do doesn't get to happen and you do something else. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because otherwise you wouldn't have done that thing, and maybe that other thing taught you something about yourself, and it's a new experience that you're taking for life no matter what. So thank you for that, and for those last words of wisdom, because I think they are absolutely key. And yes, it's beautiful. But yeah, thank you so much for that. And unfortunately, I must say to everyone, this is the end of our talk today. Because, well, it's already late. Susanna needs to get on with her life, and so do we all. We have things to do. And I'm sure that particularly you guys realize it's starting to be busy season for us tour guides. It's starting to be tiring days. So we need to keep up our strength. But honestly, thank you so much, everyone, for being on the chat. Thank you, everyone that's watched this or that is watching in the future. And honestly, Susanna, thank you so, so, so much for being here with me today, for sharing all of your knowledge, all of your stories, and for doing what you do. Because honestly, as a fellow tour guide, to me, you are inspirational. And I really look up to you and learn so much from you, and have for so many months now. And everything that you've said today is just a piece of gold that I know is just going to help so many tour guides out there and so many travelers. So honestly, thank you so much. Thanks for taking the honor of being the closing episode of the season, because I know it's a lot of pressure, but honestly, it's great. Thank you.
You honor me so much, Lily. And anybody that has decided to follow or will, as is definitely like I said, the best prize that we can wish for. So, grazie a te. Grazie a te. I can only say grazie a te.
Thank you,
It's been
honestly.
duty and pleasure.
Thank you. I'm glad. These conversations are honestly things that I live for. So thanks for that. And with that in mind, I hope everyone has a lovely evening. I hope that you have learned so much from us. And honestly, thanks everybody that has followed the series. throughout. I mean, it's 11 episodes, which is, you know, a big chunk. And it's a lot of tour guides, lots of places, and lots of experiences that we've shared here. So thank you so much for sticking with us. We will be back. But for now, it's time for you to go out there to the world and explore it. So have lots of fun, take care, and thank you again so much, Susanna. Have a lovely evening. Mwah.
Grazie mille.
Bye.
Grazie mille.